Nick Lennear has committed to the Miami Hurricanes, and recruiting season has officially begun.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, Locked On. We are brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. We're going to be discussing several different teams today as commitments are really starting to blossom. In particular, Nick Lennear committed. We'll get to him in a moment. But later in the show, we'll talk about Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and how teams in general, they don't just get commitments. They get commitments to complete their class. What do I mean by that? Certain players can help transcend your entire class, kind of like Lanier with Miami. Who are some of these teams trending for? Who are some of the guys you need to worry about? And what areas do they need to hit? Sometimes it's about location. I'll use Notre Dame and Oklahoma as a great example of that, but you can apply it to anybody. We're also going to be talking about what recruiting momentum is based on those players. It's one thing to have 15 commitments, but how many of those players are elite recruits? You might be in a better position as a school if you've got 5 commits, but your official visit list is loaded and the prime players that you need to be impact guys are already on that slate. But we do start with Mr. Nick Lennear committing to Miami and Mario Cristobal at his pool party or whatever he wants to call it that he has every year. This is a very important commitment. Nick could have went to any school in the country. I've seen him play a few times. He's from Carroll City High School down in Miami, Florida. Elite athlete. He's really good on the 7-on-7 circuit. But more than anything else, that's a name that's going to attract people. He hits on all 3 categories here. Miami's recruiting process, we'll talk about it in a second, some of the key guys. But I think a lot of players will want to play with him. He's a popular young man. He does well with the media, and he's a spectacular wide receiver. He's got a bit of a wow factor to him. That's going to help you attract a quarterback, other receivers like Julius Jones Jr. I'll talk about him a couple times today, and overall just players in South Florida. There are only so many guys that truly have that cachet that other players will say, you know what, I at least need to go visit the U. I know Nick. I've seen him play, whatever it may be. Maybe it's both. That's somebody, if he's going there, I need to check it out. I can tell you he's one of maybe 5 guys in South Florida like that. Mark Matthews, Julius Jones Jr., a handful of others in that same boat. With that, let me kind of scan through here. We'll just talk about Miami first. We'll just stay on that plane, if you will. I know Gabby over at 24/7 for the Miami site, he mentioned Mark Matthews is somebody he thinks is possibly going to commit. I actually spoke to somebody before I read that from Gabby today that thinks that Matthews is in a pretty good spot with Miami. From last time I spoke with him, that's where I got the same feeling as well. If he committed next, would it shock me? No, but because Mark is a 5-star and he's an offensive lineman, they usually take a little bit more time if they're recruited nationally like this. He may wait till take a couple of visits. A&M, Ohio State, there's a lot of programs, Florida, Notre Dame, Florida State, everybody's recruiting him. But right now, if I had to pick, I'd say Miami's the team for Mark Matthews. I don't know much about Andre Hippolyte, but that's a guy I've heard a couple of times today. He's a kid that's kind of starting to blow up. Miami wants him. Sherrod Gordine, another DB from South Florida. He's a kid that Miami's in with pretty good. He plays at MacArthur High School. I haven't heard their name quite as much here lately, but they've always got somebody. Davin Davidson, that's a quarterback they've got a shot at. But I think that the Neiman Lawrence situation, I might as well jump into that now, is important to address as well. He's class of 28, but I've heard he's going to reclass to 27. He is now transferred to American Heritage. He is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country. Neiman's a lot of fun to watch, just a precision passer. But I've also heard he's going to end up signing with Nike. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's something I heard. If that is the case, and maybe it already happened and I missed it, how does that impact a school like Miami who is with Adidas? I don't know the answer. But that's intriguing. Would you, if you knew Neiman was going to move up a class, would you wait on him? Or if somebody like Davin Davidson wanted to come and you're Miami, would you take him? He's really good too. How do you do that? I think that's one of the more interesting parts of recruiting, and it's another tough decision for Cristobal and his staff. Caden Henderson, I spoke to him a few weeks ago. He doesn't know where he's going. I know he got a crystal ball to Texas A&M, but he was at that pool party. There's a chance that Miami ends up getting him, but he did grow up a Florida State fan. He's been pulled in every direction. Julius Jones Jr., I believe he was at the pool party too, if I remember right. He told me the other day, Miami, Oregon, Notre Dame, like those are the three that he knew he was going to visit. There are some others that are involved too, but those were some of them. I'm going to be curious to see where he goes. I think they've got a really good shot at Amir Sears. He's a really good, he might be the best pure DB in South Florida, and that's saying something. He can play receiver too. He's just a great athlete. You can probably play him at running back. He's a kid at Columbus High School. That's where Mario went, and his good buddy Alex Mirabal as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to commit to Miami early, but that's a guy, maybe he wants to take visits. But now that Neiman and some of these other guys are getting, closer to decision mode, and you've already got a few key players that are in the boat for Miami, they're South Florida, and again, including Nick Lennear, I could see Amir Sears kind of go in that direction. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how it works in terms of recruiting momentum. We're talking about Notre Dame. We're going to talk about Oklahoma. We'll get all kinds of fun stuff to talk about right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins, a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build your parlay however you want. If you want to do just straight money lines, if you want to do just player props, a combination, and of course, the traditional point spreads, it's whatever you want to do. And if you're going to have some fun with it, you can mix it up from day to day as well. Go safe, go bold, ride with your team any way you want all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. To FanDuel.com, FanDuel, play your game. We are also brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, myself included, the old way of doing taxes is a hassle. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers and making sure you got everything you need, emailing back and forth with the person you're doing your appointment, it's a really big hassle. This year, you're getting it done right, though. Major upgrade with Intuit's TurboTax. Now it has in-person locations across the country. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. Just like that, you're done. TurboTax experts, they will work to get your every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your normal day. Head over to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your TurboTax appointment today. Take your game to the next level with the Everydayer Club. Down in the description below, it'll describe the Discord and all the fun stuff that's going on. But the number one thing you need to know, if you take your pods on the go, $5 a month or $50 a year, you're going to get no ads on the audio feed, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, whatever it may be. Check out the Everydayer Club. All right, momentum. It matters. Miami's down, definitely got it with Nick Lennear. Notre Dame's got a top class right now, too. Miami and Notre Dame are both top 5. Oklahoma, who I'll briefly talk about in a few minutes as well, they probably have the best class in the country right now. They're closing in on 15 commitments. They're rolling. But what is it? Before I jump into Notre Dame, this is the key. Your head coach is involved, like Cristobal's a great recruiter. Marcus Freeman's a great recruiter. Ryan Day's a great recruiter. Those things matter. They're being around the kids, but it's getting a few of your prime guys popping early, because then they can recruit for you just as much, honestly, in a lot of cases, as your staff. That is the definition of momentum in today's game. When I go to 7-on-7 tournaments, Under Armour camp, Rivals camp, a small tournament, a workout, go to a high school, it's the same conversation regardless. They say, hey, I've spoken to, and fill in the blank, we're going to go take a visit to Miami or Tennessee or Texas A&M, a group of us from our high school, like Douglas County or Miami Columbus, whatever it may be. Decisions are made at least in some part as a group to start, where they end up signing kind of goes different directions. But if you don't take those visits, if you're not being pulled in one direction when a guy is committed, you've got less of a chance. Sometimes there are kids that are going to wait it out. That's why you need some other kids to pop early. The schools that get off the hot starts in recruiting, not just commitments, again, not volume, it's who it is. They're the ones that end up doing well. Like Georgia usually kind of comes out of the gate slow, but look at the kids that are committed at the beginning for Georgia. Kirby will get 2 or 3 guys that are pretty much wanted by everybody in the Peach State. Per capita, Georgia is number 1 in the country for players to the NFL. That's a good sign. So is the school that you root for, are they doing that? Are they getting an elite player, maybe 2 or 3 committed early, but without going overboard on how many commitments they get because they took some low-hanging fruit? It's a fine line. And if you get those right guys, they're going to help you get into the right mix for the players that you're trying to finish out your class with that for whatever reason decided not to make a decision early on. All right, just random, there's no order on some of this. This is some of the intel I picked up from like speaking with Julius Jones Jr. and different people. And I'm not surprised that Notre Dame is doing well, but they're in a little bit of a bonus. Let me throw this out. Since I've been a kid, this is as good as the greater Chicagoland area has been. I'm not going to go into complete depth. I only want to mention like one guy, but there's half dozen guys, maybe more, that Notre Dame can take in this cycle and feel not just good about, people like, holy cow, this is great. Chicago has been a basketball city forever, and it probably always will be, but I called it the Michael Jordan effect. Since Jordan's been out of the game for as long as he has, football has taken more precedent here lately, and there's just more good players at the top end. Notre Dame's doing pretty good with them, and I think as good a player on film that I've seen from the junior class as anybody is David, and I apologize if I mispronounced this, Folorunsho, Folorunsho. He plays at St. Patrick High School. There are multiple former Notre Dame players at that school, and I believe his godfather is Notre Dame connection as well. And I'm not going to go down that path, but like that's a good sign. But he is a phenomenal player. Like his film is insane. Folorunsho, I'm going to go with that. Folorunsho, maybe that's pronouncing it properly, but elite player. I'm told that Notre Dame is at the top or right there. If they add that with the great class they had last year, getting a D tackle that could pass rush like him, he's give or take 280, 290, you'd be in a great spot. There's also Brayden Parks from Chicago, another elite defensive tackle. They're in on him. They're in on several guys like Abraham Sesay, a kid from Pennsylvania that they love. They got a great shot there. And the kid that I'm intrigued with, not sure how to grade his film, but the Mekhi Brown kid from the East Coast, I've asked about him from a few people. Not many people know much about him because he lives up, I think, Connecticut or Massachusetts, one of those areas. But he's like 6'6", 6'7", and plays D end. They've got a great shot there too. So Notre Dame's doing a really good job with their front seven. And there's some defensive linemen. Jakeem Gouda, I need to check out his film. He's a kid from Atlanta. I would imagine Georgia's going to get him with their linebacker ability. Like what they've done there has been insane. But Notre Dame's in on that guy, and they're obviously playing well at linebacker. That's a possibility. They're going to get a visit from Carlos May. I had been told a month ago he was going to commit to Auburn, and now he's visiting Notre Dame for the Blue Gold game. So there's a shot. I mentioned earlier Julius Jones Jr. It's Oregon, Miami, Notre Dame. He's going to take his visits and figure it out. I know Julius, great kid, but he doesn't know where he's going yet. That's one that's going to play out a little bit. A question I do have, they're loaded at running back. Are they going to take one? Are they going to take two? Are they going to be able to get an elite kid? They're in on tons of guys. I personally like the Noah Roberts kid a lot from Arizona. I recently watched his film. Oregon, maybe USC, maybe Arizona State. There's a lot of different schools after him. Let's see where he's at by the end of May when the evaluation period's over with his visits. They're in on some other guys too, South Carolina and, all over the place, Texas. Not worried about Juwan Sider and running back, but I digress. Same thing with tight end. I actually had a chance to see Malik Howard this past weekend. Great prospect, kid out of Tennessee. He's got really good speed for a big tight end. He's just under 230 pounds. Notre Dame's in the mix there. Tennessee and several other schools as well. Really good. Seneca Driver, a kid out of Kentucky, and Jackson Dowler, a kid out of North Carolina. Those are three tight ends they got a shot with, but they're all really good. And everything here is just building on the fact that Notre Dame started off hot, just like I talked about a minute ago, and they have several players that are not just committed to them, but like guys that they really want it. If you get that early run, that can help you with players like I mentioned, or a Marcus Fakatu, the kid from California, who I think is about as good a talent as there is. Another strong side defensive lineman, big time player out there in the Trinity League. They're all over the country. Notre Dame's already got commitments from California, Ohio. They're focusing on South Florida for specific kids. They're about as well organized as any school in the country. And that leads me to Oklahoma, which I'll get to after the break. Is there a team that is more in tune with recruiting one city, if they're going to have a top 5 class, and it's not in their home state, than Oklahoma? I will explain next right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and one person, you've got to fill that spot right now, and it's sitting there open, and it is really important. When the pressure's on and you need to get the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just trying to get that message in front of somebody and hoping they stumble across your job post. And here's the thing, in roughly the minute I'm going to speak to you, companies like yours make 27 hires on Indeed, according to the Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates that check all your boxes. And listeners of this show will get a $27 sponsored job credit to help get your premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this pod. Indeed.com podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. We're also sponsored by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Draft with 18 new flavors to choose from, and some that are always going to be around, like grape and cherry. It is an awesome way to go, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, cotton candy, and some of my favorites as well. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And who's your pick for number one? I certainly have mine. It's blue raspberry. It will always be blue raspberry. I am a snow cone guy, and I love that. And that flavor in 5 Hour Energy is awesome. Again, grape, cherry, things like that are there. Cotton candy is available. That's one that's got a little bit of vanilla, some fruity to it. Fruity rainbow. They've got a little bit of everything. So no matter what your taste is, 5 Hour Energy's got something for you. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or over at Amazon. Oklahoma, they have a great class. Not a good one, a great class. Two things to make that happen this early. Number one, there's a little bit of luck involved. Not one, but two in-state offensive tackles that the Sooners coveted. State of Oklahoma has good high school football, but it's not a state that's super populated. To get 2 offensive tackles in your home state early is a blessing. They took advantage. They put in the time. They gained the commitments. There was also a few other kids local, and then they went crazy with effort. This never goes out of style. Again, momentum is based on elite players. You get some elite players, they help you recruit other kids, and then you can slowly pull guys in from other areas. But this is wild. Like Georgia, California, of course, Texas. I'll talk about that in a second. They're getting kids from everywhere. But here's the scary part about Oklahoma's class. I went through the list right before the show. They've got 2 kids committed from the most important city to the Sooners, Dallas. As I noted before the break, no team is more dependent on one city that's outside their state borders than OU with Dallas. The irony is very strong. They're about 3 hours from Dallas. Same deal for the University of Texas. Obviously, that's their bitter rival. They play each other every year at the Cotton Bowl. And on top of that, they both clash for prospects in the greater Dallas Metroplex. This year's not going to be any different. It's not. Oklahoma, they got Jason Witten's kid to commit. Jason is now working at Oklahoma. But to that end, Oklahoma is doing a really good job. Cooper Witten, he's a linebacker. He's as good an instinctual player as you're going to find. He fits the system that OU runs, trying to be complex, but making mental decisions. Cooper's like just so savvy as a linebacker, great player. I bet you that with him committing in the last 24 hours, we're going to see a bunch of other players at least visit from the Metroplex. Again, they only got 2 guys committed from Dallas right now, which honestly is a little surprising. especially since they have the best class right now. However, with all those other kids committed, in-state, California, etc., now they got to focus on the area that they're best recruiting from out of state. That's Dallas. There's probably 8 to 10 kids they would love to take today from the Metroplex. We'll see which ones they end up getting. I'm not going to make this an Oklahoma show about Dallas, but this shows you, again, what recruiting momentum can be. Your head coach did a good job of getting the right people in the office. He did a good job, general manager, and all that stuff, or they wouldn't be in this boat. They had a little bit of luck with some in-state recruiting who was available, but they maximized. When the iron is hot, you've got to strike. You've got to strike, and that's what Oklahoma has done. I think there's going to be a couple of different battles they'll end up having probably with Texas A&M, LSU, et cetera, to kind of help cement the class. East Texas, Louisiana kids, that's common for Oklahoma, maybe a kid out of Arkansas or Mississippi or something. But let's see what they do in the Lone Star State, and specifically Dallas. If they can just hit on 4 or 5 kids from the Dallas area to close out this class, it would be hard at this point for Oklahoma not to finish with anything other than a top 5 class. And getting the number 1 class would not surprise me. Just for the sake of argument, I want to go over some commitments going back to February 17th. Isaiah Vandermeed, defensive lineman out of Santa Margarita Catholic, another Trinity League kid, 6'3", 290, committed to SC. Greg Hargrove out of Rosafort in Mississippi, a running back, committed to Minnesota. Minnesota kid going up to Minnesota, or Mississippi kid going to Minnesota. That's pretty unusual. Quentin Hale, one of the best receivers in the class, a top 50 player, a 94 grade on 24/7, has committed to SC, is at Centennial High School. Great program. Jack Devine's going to San Diego State. He's a kid out of Austin, Texas. Another Uli Ungole, he's going to University of Washington, defensive lineman, a kid from Mater Dei, shocker. Dwayne Jones out of Booker T. Washington. In Tulsa is going to Kansas State. That's a little surprising. I wonder if Oklahoma State or Oklahoma might have something to say about that before it's over. In case you didn't know, Gunnar Rivers, I'm sure you know who his dad is, St. Michael Catholic in Fairhope, Alabama, right down the road from me in South Alabama, has committed to NC State, same place his dad played. Jackson Ballinger out of Centerburg, Ohio, a tight end, is going to Florida. That one's another one that's a bit unusual. Tay Reich, Moorhead High School in Minnesota, running back, committed to the Gophers. Oklahoma obviously got Cooper Witten. David Mack, another kid committed to Minnesota. Give credit to the Gophers. They're doing pretty good. Out of Moorhead, Minnesota, wide receiver, 5'11", 175, will go up to Minneapolis. Illinois got Justin Johnson out of Evanston Township, just outside of Chicago. And Iowa State, Isaiah Hanson out of Newton High School in Iowa, running back, will play for the Cyclones. And to round it out, Isaac Miller, an edge from in-state Catholic Memorial in Waukesha, Wisconsin, is going to play for the Badgers in addition to Nick Lennear and his commitment. I've got a whole bunch of comments to go through, so I'm just going to have some fun with that right here. Let's see what we got today. Ikamichi says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, sir. Let's roll. Katie, how you doing? Salty, happy Friday afternoon, Portal Podcast Nation. Katie says, JoJo Trader was a 5-star too. Where is he now? NC State. NC State. JJ is heating up to Miami. If Oregon or Notre Dame don't get it done, we will get him. That's possible. I think there's a legitimate chance that Julius signs at Miami. Like, I when I speak with him, we have really candid conversations. He doesn't know where he's going, but it's possible Julius ends up at Miami, certainly. Let's see. Other than Malachi, name one Mario wide receiver recruit that has hit big. I don't think there's any. The kid that, forget his name, help me, the big receiver they signed last year, I'd interviewed him once a long time ago. He might be the next one because he got to play some last year, but they had the veterans. It's possible he starts. Let's see. Salty, doesn't the Mario pool party for young athletes sound just a little creepy? I mean, for what it's worth, Mario lives about a mile from Miami's campus, and he's got a pretty cool home, as you would expect. So, I don't know. I've never been over to see Mario. I don't know, but to each their own, I guess. Katie, Mario's bagman and relative John Ruiz is always at the party making promises he won't keep. Yes, the same John Ruiz is the target of federal grand jury here in Miami as we speak. Oh, dear. I did not know that. That's crazy. Xander Cruz says that's Park. Yeah, Brayden Parks. Stop the Miami hate. If you're rocking with the U, you know what to do. Show your daddy Mario Cristobal support. Throw those U's up. Bobby Bowden will never know. Adaris Hendricks. That's funny. Xander Cruz. Notre Dame linebacker recruiting is pretty bad right now. They're in on a bunch of guys, but I don't know if they lead for anybody. When you have linebacker turnover in terms of your coaching staff, that makes it pretty rough. Katie Ruiz is also the guy that promised to finance a stadium and build a football-only facility. A scam that got him investigated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Ooh, that's awkward. Miami's returned from a 20-year vacation. All of college football has taken notice. If you haven't added to your title count as of 25, I hope Miami isn't on your schedule. Well, Miami is good, but they need to win an ACC title too. They got to finish. They get there, but they got to finish. Katie Ruiz was also the guy that promised to finance a stadium football facility for money from SPAC that went bust and got him in more hot water with the feds. Let's see. Katie. Mario has been a head coach for 15 years and never been undefeated. He lost at 2 games every season. He should easily win. And historically, after a big year, his teams always regress. We got some different opinions on Miami, obviously. Let's see. Yes, Moore. IT Kamichi, that's right. Joshua Moore, really talented player. He might start for Miami this year. Good player, man. You can't teach the length. He's at least 6'3". Standing next to him like he's long arms. He's what you're looking for, a wide receiver. Let's see. Yes. I'm still making fun of Miami because they haven't won an ACC title. They haven't won a national title either since the early 2000s. So with that, I appreciate it for everybody stopping in. Recruiting is here. We're going to talk more and more about the recruiting rounds and all the things that are going on in recruiting over the next couple of weeks. And there's going to be a lot of visits. This weekend coming up, there's visits too for a lot of schools, junior days. But once we get into April, we'll see even more. Why? Because spring practices, and those kids get to go to the fun stuff, as I call it. They get to go to the scrimmages. Not that the media is going to get to go to those, and those help quite a bit as well. But it's fun to see some of that stuff. Is part of it. And I'm curious to see if there are any commitments based on that. Kind of like with Nick Lennear committing to the Hurricanes this past night. But anyway, thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. I really do appreciate it. We will be back again soon. Everybody have a good one. This has been the Portal Podcast.